Salvete discipuli, and welcome to the flipped classroom experiment, part 1. So, I'm your host, Augustus Florimwear, Mr. Flowerman, Coach, whichever you prefer. And let me just introduce you to what a flipped classroom is. So the idea behind a flipped classroom is that rather than me giving you a lecture in class, and you all taking notes on the lecture during class, and me making various mistakes during the lecture, and then next year having to give the same lecture again, make the same mistakes again, etc., I record a lecture, and once that lecture is recorded, right, you can go back and watch that at any time, but the first time you watch it is going to be actually before we discuss the topic in class. So while we have discussed relative pronouns, we haven't gone into a great deal of depth, so the first lesson is going to be about relative pronouns. Now, I'm going to be in Washington, and if I did not attempt this, by the way, this is the conference I went to last week, it was about flipped classrooms, so it works out perfectly. If I did not attempt to do this right now, you guys would get behind Dr. G's class. And if you're behind Dr. G's class, then when we take the exam in December, well, since we're going to be having the same exam, it's going to be pretty difficult. So, we want to be in the same place as Dr. G's class, for sure. So, we're going to keep doing our lessons, although I'll be giving you these lessons from afar. And then you'll be doing what would normally have been homework in class. Now, the benefit in general of the flipped classroom is rather than me lecturing you, right, and then you doing the stuff for homework, and then getting your homework totally wrong, in the flipped classroom, I give the lecture in the video, you take notes on the lecture, including questions you have. You ask me the questions right at the beginning of class, and then we start on what would normally be your homework assignment in class. And you can ask me, you can ask each other, you can work together, and that way you don't make the mistakes the first time around. If you do something wrong, and then you reinforce it and reinforce it again and again, it's much harder to unteach something than it is to learn it right the first time. So, if this goes well, this might be how we're doing our classes for, who knows, the rest of the year. Not every single class, but a lot of them. So, here goes nothing. Okay, so why don't we think about qui, qui, quod comparatively to some of the other pronouns we learned. Specifically over here, I'm going to use ille, illa, illud as our example, because, you know, we didn't go into ille, illa, illud as much as we did with hic, hi, cock, or isse, id. So let's take a look at these forms over here, right? So for the nominatives, you have ille, illa, illud, okay? They don't look particularly regular. Ille and illud don't. Illa does. But they're pronouns, and you know, pronouns are a little bit different. Look at the genitives. Ilius, ilius, ilius. That ius genitive is one of those common threads that we see throughout the pronouns. We have huius, huius, huius for hic, hi, cock, and when we do qui, qui, quod over there, it's going to be cuius, cuius, cuius. Okay? Illi, illi, illi. That I is another common thread. Huic, 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 and kui, kui, kui. For the accusative, we have illum, illam, illud. Now, illum and illam are pretty obvious, right? Because you have your first declension ending right here for the feminine, your second declension ending here for the masculine, for the accusative, and then the neuter accusative is going to be what? That's right, it's going to be the same as the nominative, because that's what neuters do. And your ablative, illo, illa, illo, just like first and second declension. Wonderful. Plurals. From here on out, it goes just like first and second declension, period. Every single one of them. Illi, 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 lorem, 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 elis, 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 los, elas, eli, elis, elis, elis. Right? If I did the same thing, I used puer, it would be pueri, puerorum, pueris, pueros, pueris. If I did puella, it would be puelli, puellarum, puellis, puellas, puellis. And if I did, oh, give me a good second declension neuter. You? Donum? Donum, that's a good one. Yeah. Dona, donorum, donis, dona, donis. Right? Just like that. Now with qui, qui, quod, there are going to be a few differences. Right? So you start off the same way. What's our first case? Yep. Nominative. Qui, Quad. So what is it? Oh, second case. Yeah, genitive, good. Okay, what is about the genitive and the dative with qui, quod, quod that's different, right? What changes with the genitive and the dative than all the other forms? Yeah, it's a stem change. What kind of stem change? All right, so the Q turns into a C, right? So we have genitive, we have C. Here's our stem, Q. And what's our genitive ending going to be? Right? It's not going to be E, it's not going to be ease. It's going to be what all of our genitives are for our pronouns, so it's going to be ius. So, cuius. Right? And just like all of them, it's the same for all three. Cuius. Cuius. What's next? Yep, dative. Right? Dative has that same change, so it starts with ku. Good? And just like hikakaquius, quius, quique, or ilius, ili, this one's also going to end in an I, so we have kui, and kui. Right? So far, not too much. That's earth-shattering. Here's our first real sort of earth-shattering one that's really different with qui, quod. Okay? The accusative, I forgot to ask you. Okay, yeah, it's accusative. The accusative, masculine, singular, for qui, quod, is quem. Okay? It's quem. Okay? The reason it's quem is because it can't be quum. If it were quum, it would be pronounced the same way as cum. So the Romans would think you were saying with when you're actually trying to say the accusative, you know, whom, and that would be, well, really confusing because you use both those words a lot in Latin. In fact, in medieval times, it actually spelled cum, Q-U-U-M. Interesting factor. Right, so quem, but then the other two are pretty regular. So it's going to be just like the first declension, accusative singular. Yep, quam. And neuter rule. Boom, quod. Ablative singular. Oh, sorry. Yes. Next one. Ablative, of course. Ablative singular is regular. Quo. Qua. Quo. Okay. There are two more earth-shattering things in the plural. But before we go to the plural, I want to talk about what the relative pronoun actually does. So, the relative pronoun... Oh, is there some glare? Let me see if I can get rid of that glare. I'll be back in 1 second. Is that better? Yeah, it's better. Okay. So, what does the relative pronoun actually do? So the relative pronoun lets you create a little subclause in a sentence, right, that tells you more about what's going on in the sentence. If you don't have that relative clause in the sentence is still going to make sense. Now you guys like me to use my brother Seth as the example. You know, I just gave my favorite hat to my brother Seth, who used to beat me up when I was a kid. Right? So that last part at the end, who used to beat me up when I was a kid, is describing Seth. Right? But the whole sentence would work without it. Right? I just gave my hat to my brother Seth. That works by itself. That's a complete sentence. But we don't know as much about the sentence as we do otherwise. Right? I might have just given you an insight into why I gave my brother my favorite hat. You know? Maybe I gave my brother my favorite hat because I don't want him to beat me up anymore. That's not the real reason. And I didn't actually give him my favorite hat. It's just an example. But you can use multiple relative clauses, right? That's a clause introduced by a relative pronoun, in the same sentence. I gave my favorite hat, the one which occasionally catches on fire, to my brother Seth, who used to beat me up when I was a kid. So now you know more about the sentence, and you might know more about my motives for giving him the hat. I love my brother. I don't really want him to catch on fire. It's a disclaimer. Okay. But how do these work? How do you pick which one to use? So, in order to pick the gender and number, right, you have to look at what's called the antecedent. So that comes from two Latin words, ante, which means before, good, and cato, which you've only seen as a compound with discato, which you usually see discessi, right? I left, discessit, he left, discessirum, they left. So cato means to go. Discato means to go away. Cato is go. So if ante means before, and cato means to go, the antecedent is the thing that comes before. Right? So the antecedent for a pronoun is the noun it's talking about. So when I say, I gave my hat, the one which, right? That which there has to be talking about the hat, right? And the pronoun is going to match its antecedent in only two things, right? Adjectives match in gender, number, and case. Pronouns match in gender and number. The case doesn't depend on the case of the original noun. The case depends on the function of the pronoun in that sentence. Okay? So, let's talk about what these are translated as. Okay? All of them are translated as some version of who, whom, right? Or which. Okay. Who, whom, or which. Now, what's the difference between who and whom in English? Right? How many different types of pronouns, how many cases do we have in English? Right? We have one, which is the nominative, and we have the second case, which is the oblique case, right? So the oblique case is for everything except for the subject. Who is only for the subject. Whom is for everything but the subject. And which happens to work for all of them, right? Because it's about things, not about people. And for some reason, that's just how it works. Sorry. I can't help it. That's just how it works. Don't blame me. Okay. So, what does qui, quod, quod mean then? Right? Since it's nominative, it's going to be, right up here. Who, which. So because it's nominative, right, these will all be functioning as the subject of that subclause. What do I mean the subject? I mean, I'm saying the hat, the one which catches fire. If I were just saying the one which catches fire as its own sentence, it would be it catches fire, right? It being the hat. So that relative pronoun would be the subject if that little clause was its own sentence. Understand what I'm saying? Yeah? Good. Cuyus. Cuyus. I love pronouncing cuyus. Hey, come in. Hey.
Can I borrow your key for a second?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm just practicing my flip classroom because I'm going to be in Washington. Mr. Mack is here.
Sorry. I'll be right back.
So, cuyus. I love cuyus. Just pronouncing it because you can go cuyus. So, it has this same universal genitive, right? And as all of our genitives, we have of or apostrophe s, right? So we have whom, because we're not nominative, and we have of. Thank you very much. So, of whom, or whose, right? And by whose, I mean belonging to. W-H-O-S-E. Well, actually, whose for the first two, and of which for the neuter. And what about the dative? Dative, same as always, right? Cooey, cooey, cooey. How do we translate our dative? To or for. So to or for whom for the first two, and for the neuter, to or for which. Quem, quam, quod, accusative is just whom, and which. Functioning as what in the sentence? That's right, the direct object. Or the object of a preposition that takes the accusative. Give me some prepositions that take the accusative. Odd, good, that's one. What about in? In can take the accusative. When in is with the accusative, what does it mean? Into or onto. When in is with the ablative, what does it mean? In or on. So you have to be careful when you're translating this, right? Because if it's just to whom, someone's phone's ringing. It's probably mine. One sec. Hello? Yes. Oh, hey. What's up? I'm good. I'm good. England's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm teaching in Texas actually, and right now I'm making a video for my flipped classroom because I'm going to Washington next week, and you're on the video. Yeah. Ooh, that sounds nice. How much money do you want me to give? Well, I'm not gonna give an absurd amount. Okay, let's see. Are you doing for 2011 or for 2012? Okay, 12 times 10. 12 times 10. I'll give you 100 I'll give you 120. Yep. Okay, well, if you could give me, could you send me an email with the number to call you back at? Because I'm actually making this video right now. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and you have my non-personal email address, or? Okay, you probably have it, but double check. I'll let you know. That's right. Yeah. So send me the message with that, and I'll call you right back. Okay. Bye bye. Sorry about that. Princeton wants my money. Okay. As I was saying, quem, quam, quod, whom, which. Be careful because you can have the preposition as well, right? Which will sort of change the meaning, right? If it means into a certain place, it'll be into the place, and it won't mean the place is the object of the sentence. It'll be the place is the object of the preposition. Now, ablative is going to have that same little problem. And by the way, as I say every single time that you guys tell me that some preposition takes the genitive, prepositions only take the accusative and the ablative in Latin. In Greek, prepositions can take the dative, because there is no ablative. Uh-oh. Oh, good. Thought I was writing on the board in Sharpie. Was I? Maybe. No wonder it looks so crisp and clean. Well, I'm going to pause the video. False alarm. It was not Sharpie. Okay. So you also have to be careful for the ablative, right? Because the ablative, quo, qua, quo, when we see ablative, maybe to think by, with, or from. And in this case, whom or which. But if the ablative is the object of a preposition, it'll be whatever the preposition is, ablative, right? So if it's sub, meaning under, and it's not with motion, if it's just sub, underneath, then you'll use under which, or under whom. Most likely under which. And so that works for all of those, and the plurals are just the plurals of that. Now before I write the plural nominative, okay, I want to warn you that this is going to make you very sad because it violates one of the most sacred rules that we have in Latin. That rule being, the nominative plural goes qui, quae, quae. Okay, I know, you must remember every day the neuter plural ends in A, except for the neuter plural of the relative pronoun which ends in E. Again, you have my sincere apologies that it goes qui, quae, quae. The other rule stays in effect though. The other neuter rule. So our neuter accusative plural is still going to be the same. Genitive, you see that. Oh yeah, you can see that, totally. But let's sharpen the image. Wow. Qui, quae, quae. Genitive, plural, goes just like a regular first and second declension. Quorum, quorum, quorum. Dative plural, okay? Dative plural is a dative ending we've seen before, but it is not first and second declension, okay? So this is the other mind-blowing bit of information. This mind-blowing bit of information is that here, we are going to use the third/fourth declension dative ending. So it's going to go, very fun one, quibus, quibus, quibus. Those are really bad cues, sorry. Accusative plural is going to be regular, quos, quas, and we follow the rules, so quae. Quae. And ablative plural follows that other rule we love, right, where our dative and ablative plural are always the same. And it's going to go quibus, quibus, can't write, quibus, quibus. Cool. Okay? And so, now you tell me, for the plurals, what each of them mean. So, qui, quae, quae? Who? That's right. Quorum, quorum, quorum? Come on, louder. Right? Of whom, of which? Quibus, quibus, quibus. To whom, for whom? To which, for which? Quos, quos, quos? Whom? And quibus, 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 by with the